All right. For anyone in our public policy and management class, you'll remember Deputy Chief State's Attorney John Ruscato talking about the Connecticut prosecution standards. And if you've only ever seen prosecutors on TV, you probably think of them as these ruthless sharks just obsessed with getting a win, whatever it takes. But what if I told you the real job description is something else entirely? That there's an official playbook, a rule book that's not about winning, but about something way bigger. Let's get into it.
So what's the real story here? Are they just another lawyer in a system built for battle, or are they actually held to a completely different, higher standard? This question really gets to the very heart of how our justice system is supposed to work. And here in Connecticut, the answer is literally written down in black and white.
And that answer is found in the Connecticut Prosecution Standards. This is the official playbook for every single prosecutor in the state. And this isn't just a list of helpful hints, it's the formal guide for how they have to conduct themselves. Its whole goal is to define their true mission, their North Star, if you will.
And here it is, the core mission. Right from Standard 1-1.1, their primary responsibility is to seek justice, not merely to convict. Let that sink in. Their job isn't just to rack up wins and put people away. It's about making sure justice is done, which includes protecting the innocent and respecting the rights of everyone involved, even the person being accused. That is a huge departure from the TV stereotype.
And this isn't some brand new idea. The ethical backbone of these standards actually comes from this incredibly powerful quote from a Supreme Court case way back in 1935. It says, "A prosecutor can strike hard blows, sure, but they are not at liberty to strike foul ones. They can and should fight hard, but they absolutely must fight fair."
This brings us to this really crucial concept, the prosecutor as a minister of justice. Think about it this way. A defense attorney's job is to be a fierce advocate for their one client. That's their whole focus. But a prosecutor's client is, well, it's society. It's all of us. And that creates this unique duty to chase the truth and fairness above everything else, making sure the process is just and the outcome is based on actual solid evidence.
Okay, now let's get into one of the most powerful and frankly least understood parts of a prosecutor's job, the power to choose. This is the decision of whether to even charge someone with a crime in the first place, and it's where their judgment can have a massive, immediate impact.
This immense power is called prosecutorial discretion. Long before a case ever sees the inside of a courtroom, a prosecutor is looking at the evidence and deciding if charges should be filed, and if they are, what exactly those charges will be. It is a decision that can completely change the course of a person's life, and it comes with a really heavy burden of responsibility.
So with all that power, what stops them from just doing whatever they want? Well, the standards put up some very clear guardrails. They're told to consider things that make sense, right? Like how serious the crime was, the harm to the victim, how strong the evidence is. But just as important is what they're explicitly forbidden from considering. Things like a person's race, their religion, their political beliefs, or just caving to public pressure.
This gets even more complicated when you realize a prosecutor is juggling duties to a bunch of different people all at the same time, and sometimes those interests don't line up. It's a real balancing act.
First, the prosecutor has a clear duty to the victim of the crime. The standards make sure victims aren't just treated like bystanders in their own cases. They have a right to be treated with fairness and respect, to be kept in the loop about what's going on, and to actually have their voice heard at really important moments like plea bargains and sentencing. It's about giving them dignity in the process.
Now, here's the part that might really surprise you. The prosecutor's duties to the accused. Yeah, you heard that right. This totally goes against that courtroom warrior stereotype. They can only bring charges that are actually supported by probable cause. They have to treat the defense lawyer professionally. And here's the absolute biggest one. They have to disclose evidence that might be favorable to the defense. Think about that. If they find something that suggests the person might be innocent, they're ethically required to hand it over to the other side.
Okay, this all sounds really good on paper, but it brings up a huge question. What happens when a prosecutor breaks these rules? What if they do strike a foul blow? Is there any real accountability?
Well, the playbook actually has a procedure for this, a clear chain of command for accountability. Standard 1-1.6 says another prosecutor has a duty to first try and stop the misconduct. If that fails, they have to report it up the ladder, even to the chief state's attorney if needed. And for really serious ethical violations, it has to be reported to the statewide bar for potential discipline.
However, and this is a really big however, accountability does have its limits. There's a legal concept called prosecutorial immunity. In short, it means they can't be sued civilly for the actions they take while prosecuting a case.
The idea is to let them do their job fearlessly without having to worry about getting hit with a lawsuit from every defendant. But, and this is crucial, it is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It doesn't protect them from professional discipline or even from criminal charges if they willfully break the law.
So, after this whole deep dive, why does this legal document actually matter to the rest of us? Because these rules aren't just about prosecutors. They're really about the health and integrity of our entire justice system.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing: public trust. For the justice system to work at all, people have to believe that it's fundamentally fair and impartial. This playbook is basically the state's promise that the people with all this power are being guided by justice, not just by a desire to win.
This signature, right from the foreword of the document, isn't just some ink on a page. It really symbolizes a personal pledge, an institutional commitment. It's a promise from the highest levels of the state's justice system to uphold these principles in every single case, every single day.
And that kind of leads us with one final big question to chew on. Our justice system is designed for conflict, right? It's prosecution versus defense. So in that environment, what does it really mean? And what does it truly take to rise above that fight and actually serve as a true minister of justice? That's definitely something worth thinking about.